Hello, good morning. This is Vlog entry 106 and currently it is 8 a.m. CST. As you can see, I finally cut my own hair and it doesn't look too bad actually. I don't necessarily like buzz cuts, but they're practical during the summer and I'm probably going to be wearing a hat most of the time, so it's fine. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like my head shape is not amazing for buzz cuts, and also my hair is really thick, so it looks weird. I don't know, for me it looks weird. And also like I have like really broad shoulders and my head is like slightly less than average for head circumference, I think, for my size or my height. I don't know. But yeah, that's why I usually like having longer hair, just to see people. But yeah, I don't know. It looks okay. From this perspective, it looks fine. But if you saw me like for in person, it would look like, I don't know. I feel like just maybe I'm just being too self-conscious about my broad shoulders, but it kind of bothers me. But this is a body that I have, so I can't really trade one. I can't trade this for something else. So I guess that's a good way to say it. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm supposed to be working. Started working tomorrow actually for the position I've been talking about recently, and then there was another offer for me over at some pool, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna be working part time over the pool, and I prefer to but the thing is, like, this pool is actually closer. It's about like 30 minutes as opposed to an hour transit time, and it's part time. So it's either I go there 30 minutes for a part time position, or I have like 2 hours of commute for a full time position. And I'm fine with the commute time because I'm not the one driving. I'm gonna be sitting on the train, so I can just like read a book or do something, and I'm fine with just sitting on the train and occupying myself for that extra hour as opposed to the pool variant. But I don't know. I think that's a good idea, but I don't know. They sent me an email for the pool, but they still haven't sent me an email for the lakefront confrontation position. So I'm still waiting for that. And I sent them all my. There was a bit of a delay because I didn't go through like the whole onboarding task, even though I essentially did it. I gave them all the documents for it, but I had to click through and hit complete, and then I had to insert a few proxies to upload the document, even though they didn't pertain to the document that they were looking for in that particular task section. But I had to go through it because that would unlock the offer. Unlock the offer? I don't know, but I had to go through it, and anyways, whatever. So I talked to HR about that, and the guy for the conversation position should be contacting me soon. If not, I'm going to contact the HR lady because I do want that position. I think she may have contacted one of the people that were looking for seasonal or citywide park attendants for the pool, because they can see my resume and I have worked at a pool before. But also she may have contacted that guy because I did kind of specify that I didn't want to have to commute for so long, even though I said that I was fine with it essentially, because it just boils down to whether I want to work full-time or part-time. And if I work part-time there, then I'm had to work part-time somewhere else, and then that'll cause a lot of complications I don't feel like dealing with, like I've mentioned before. So again, I'd rather commute for an extra hour each day I work, as opposed to doing a part-time position. That's personal preference. I don't know. That seems fine to me. But aside from that, I've been kind of hanging out, and I got on Guild Wars 2 yesterday and a couple days ago just to see what was going on, because they actually had an expansion announcement. Not I think the first quarter of the expansion starts on August 20th, so that's kind of cool. So I was interested to see what they had, and they're adding a lot of new content and whatnot, and they're adding houses and a bunch of other random shit. So, and there was also a festival that they have over the summer, 2 festivals. So I was looking at that and whatnot to see if there's anything different, but it's all the same. So I did that a couple days ago, and I've been looking at permutations and whatnot and rederiving some of the equations for like n choose k and like the variance for like if you have like some kind of n-sized alphabet and you are choosing in that n-sized alphabet where order actually matters, then you can rederive those equations pretty easily. And also when you choose from the n-sized alphabet, that's what a permutation is basically, where you have like this set of objects, and you count the number of ways in which you can choose those set of objects where order matters and you can only use those alphabets or those objects of that set once, and then you kind of study, the realm of permutations. Commutations or otherwise is basically the same thing, but order doesn't matter. So n choose k is actually essentially a subset of combinations, because order doesn't matter for n choose k, because you have a subset and you're just choosing between them. So when you choose them and you put in your own little pile. You can call it a pile or whatever you want to. You're not reordering it. If you're reordering it and you're saying those reorderings make them unique, then that would be a permutation. I was looking at those things and I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I first looked at n choose k formula, I was a little bit confused on how they derived the, so they have, when they divide by k factorial when order doesn't matter, and I somewhat intuitively understood it, but I didn't rigorously derive it, and this time I decided to rigorously derive it through just saying that from the prior equation, where you have you choose k where k is less than n, you can assume that there exists a equation, and n, big N, not small n, because that n is times k factorial is equal to that prior equation just divided by k factorial to get the n choose k, and that big N represents the n choose k. Yeah, it makes sense, because they're like that's the whole thing about counting, is that you look at different ways to represent those different you look at different equations that represent different ways of counting, and sometimes it could be easier, sometimes it can be harder. Sometimes you get a closed function that's easily computable, sometimes you get an implicit function that is hard to do, or recursive relation, depending on how you decide to represent that counting algorithm. But yeah, so by doing that, you can actually just rederive n choose k, and that's what I decided to do. And I was like, oh yeah, I think that's the normal way of doing it. I don't know, maybe people do it visually, and I don't know. There are probably a lot of ways of rederiving n choose k, and I found my own way, which was by supposing that there exists a function, big N times k factorial. Big N times the k factorial represents basically. You can look at big N cases in which you have a string, or you can think of a bucket of objects where the ordering doesn't matter. And then you're basically saying that there are n buckets or strings where the ordering doesn't matter, and that's why you have the k factorial, because you have to map that n choose k times k factorial to go back to where ordering does matter. That kind of makes sense, because where ordering does matter, you're looking at these strings where k factorial is and if you look at the simplest form of a permutation is n factorial. Which is, I'm not sure if you guys know what that is, but it's just basically the size of that all the way down to 1, because in each in each position of a string you are choosing n possibilities, and then the next one, well, you can't choose that one, because like I said, that these objects can't repeat, so it's n minus 1 times n minus 2 all the way down to 1, and that's why you have to multiply by k factorial, because you're looking at those distinct cases. Yeah, I don't know. It makes sense in my head. Maybe I'll make a video on it, because it would be easier to see it on a board as opposed to just spewing it out. I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I may look at a few applications of n choose k. The thing is, once you, I don't know. I like rederiving equations because I never had issues with generalizing a problem. If that kind of makes sense, is abstracting it to a point where you can actually say, oh yeah, this equation applies to this problem because that's what you usually do in mathematics, especially in word problems, or if you're looking at a particular case in the real world, you're like, well, I have to extract it enough to then say, oh yeah, I can use this equation that I've seen before. And at least when I do combinatorics, I tend to abstract it as strings. I did that with I don't know, I just think of everything as strings. You can think of it in a lot of ways, but I for some reason I think of it as strings. And when I think about n choose k, I just think of a string of binary numbers, because you can think of a set, right? And then each position of a set is some object, and that object, it's just a distinct object, right? And um, yeah, so it's either you choose or you don't. 0, you don't choose it. 1, you do, and then you have that string for that set represents n choose k essentially. I don't know. It makes sense in my head. I think combinatorics is interesting. I think the reason why is because it has like a nice balance between algebraic and spatial manipulation. So I find it to be somewhat interesting. Maybe other people don't. And people say it's hard, and I can see why it's hard. But for me, it tends to work with my head. I don't know. It may seem simplistic at first because you're like, oh, it's just a science of counting. It's like you're just counting things. Like, yeah, it is to an extent, but I don't know. I like creating algorithms and seeing how all this stuff can tie up to a nice generalized format. So, but yeah, like I said, I may look at some of the specific worked examples for permutations, probably under Bona's book, because like I said, Alan Tucker's book is like, it's computer science based, so maybe Bona's going to have more rigorous problems that may have a few lemmas, or lemmas are basically byproducts of theorems essentially. So I may look into that and maybe look at a few of the lemmas, and then after I'm done with permutations, I think I may make a few videos on weak and strong. I'm not going to like explain what weak and strong induction is because it's kind of you can always search on the Wikipedia. Maybe I'll look at what I'm planning to do in most of my videos if I decide to do them. Is I expect the person to understand the definition of the objects will be definitions and theorems I will be using, and then I'll just do the problem, maybe. And if I just like doing problems. I don't really like. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to play around a little bit to see if I want to do anything more than that. But anyways, like I said, after I'm done with permutations and combinations, I'm probably going to look at the binomial multinomial theorem, and that stuff. I want to look at the multinomial theorem. That seems interesting because I haven't actually thought of a representation. I know how to abstractly think of the binomial theorem. One, because I've done it and I can just generalize what I've done in seeing from polynomial representations involving 2 variables. Multinomial is a polynomial of some power n involving n different variables. Call them variables, or I guess they are variables essentially. Yeah. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did run into, like I said before, there was a interesting weak induction problem that I found that was fun, and it involved actually using the binomial theorem. I didn't directly use the binomial theorem. I just knew that it was associated to a counting problem, which was n choose k, and that's basically what the binomial theorem is. And then, like I said, I may look at generating functions some more. I haven't even looked at generating functions, but I know this is important. And then I'll look at the C formula if it seems interesting. I am actually getting ahead of schedule because I was thinking about looking at the pigeonhole. Again, there are a lot of these problems are not like, for me at least, it tends to click with my brain more, so I tend to go through these things pretty quickly. I mean, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna be quite frank with you. There were some things in weak and strong induction problems from Bona's book that didn't really. Again, like I said, some of the word problems were a little bit weird for me. I did one of them, and then there were a few other ones that were worded weirdly, and I was like, I don't feel like doing that. And I'm thinking about going back to some of them to see if I can get myself to do it. But at that time, I was just like, nah. And then there was another number theory problem from the weak induction worked examples, and I was like, weak/strong induction working examples that I may look at. We'll see. I mean, there were quite a few, but the thing is, like, there was another number theory one which was under the weak/strong induction worked examples problem, but it also looked easier to use a direct proof as opposed to doing a mathematical and inductive proof. At least from my perspective, it seemed like it would be easier just to do a direct proof, but I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. I just like looking at math stuff. But yeah, and then I guess maybe in like 2 weeks from now, because I'm going to start working and whatnot, I don't want to overwork my head. I'm going to look into partitions and then cycles. I still don't know what cycles of permutations, or is it? Yeah, cycles of permutations. I don't know what that means, but I'll look into that later. But yeah, anyways, so that's just like an update on the math stuff that I was doing. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not doing too much. I had an issue with my my rent a couple days ago because I had an auto draft. Is it called an auto draft? I don't know. Like, it's an automated payment every month. It's a recurring payment every month that I have automated now. And I had it tied to my checking account, but I didn't have enough in my checking account, so I had to stop the payment and send it back to my bank account. But the thing is, it's not updating on the property management's website still, so it's taking a couple of days. But I also did a prepayment, which I added from my credit card into my account, so at least it shows that I paid for it. It's just kind of hovering in the website until that update gets processed. So then they'll take that. I don't know. I'm going to talk to Cedar Realty to see what they see on their side, because I'm a little bit. I don't want to get penalized for it. So yeah. Anyways, so I've been having like minor adultish things here and there that are a little bit inconvenient, but that's life, I guess. Is there anything else? I mean, I don't really have anything planned. I mean, I'm working and doing this stuff, and I said I wanted to get into programming some more, but the thing is, like, I don't want to put too much on my plate yet, because I kind of want to feel the my situation out a little bit more before I do anything, because I'm going to be working again. Like I said, I'm going to be working quite a bit, and I don't know if I'm going to drain myself too much from work, and then I won't have enough energy to do all the other stuff I want to do. So we'll see. Anyways. Yeah, so I think I'm done talking. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.